Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Kusaj. We're continuing. We're continuing with 4.1. This is part 2. I am going to assume that you memorized the sine, cosine, tangent ratios. Okay, so I will zip through that part when I get to it. So, solving right triangles, finding missing side or angle. So we're going to have a missing side or a missing angle, and we're going to use trig, that means sine, cosine, tangent, to find the missing side or angle. So, first of all, the way it's done is you set up the ratio, the correct ratio. You have 3 to pick from, and then you solve it. It's that easy. Okay, here's an example. Now, I'm missing a side here, right? I have the angle, I have one side, and I'm looking for this side. What about this side? Well, I'm not looking for that side. So in this problem, I'm dealing with what? The hypotenuse, and now is this the adjacent or the opposite? Well, since we're dealing with this angle, from this angle's perspective, right? This is adjacent. This would be opposite, so we're not using that. Adjacent is what we're looking for, and we have the hypotenuse. So adjacent hypotenuse, AH, ka. That reminds me of cosine. So it's the cosine that we're going to use here, right? It's the cosine that we're going to use here. So set it up. Cosine of the angle, right? Cosine of the angle, cosine 42 is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, x over 18. Now solve that. Solve for x. This is just a number, right? You put that in your calculator and it comes up with a number. How do you solve this? Well, I suggest you treat it like a proportion. If you put a 1 underneath here, then look, cross multiply and you have a proportion. So 1 times x is x. Cosine 42 times 18 is whatever the calculator says. That's what x is. X is cosine 42 times 18. It comes out to 13.4. Done. X is, the side we're looking for is 13.4. All right? So what just happened here? Well, it all comes down to picking the correct trig ratio. So you had to know, in this situation, we need to use cosine. How about in this situation? Well, let's look at it closely. Here's the angle. So am I going to use sine, cosine, or tangent? Well, it depends. What are we dealing with? We're dealing with opposite hypotenuse, OH. Oh, so, sine. So we're going to use the sine function. So sine 53 is equal to opposite hypotenuse, 15 over x. That's it. Right? Now we treat it like an equation. So imagine a 1 here. So 15 times 1 is 15. Sine 53 times x is sine 53x. Right? It looks crossed out because I finished the problem. Right? So I cross multiply. And then what? I'm looking for x. So I divide both sides by sine 53. And this cancels. So x equals whatever the calculator says to 15 divided by sine 53. It's going to say 18.8. Done. That's how you find the missing side. Okay? Now, inverse trig functions. Now, if we're going to find an angle, imagine going back to this. Imagine we had the two sides, 18 and 13.4, but we didn't know this angle was 42. That's the x there. That's the unknown there. So it's kind of like going backwards. We're giving you the sides, go back to the angle. Well, we use inverse trig functions. Not to worry. The calculator will do all the work for you. So think of it this way. So if sine of some angle, like this one over here, sine 53 is equal to a value, right? Well, we can do it backwards. The inverse of the value is equal to the angle, right? Inverse sine. So this little -1 just means inverse sine. This is in the calculator also. So now, if you're looking for the angle, you're going to use the inverse, right? If you're looking for the value of the side, then you just use sine of the angle, and then you got the side. But if you're looking for the angle, then you do inverse sine, okay? I think if you see it in action, you'll see that it is easy. For example, sine of 30, if you put that in the calculator, it'll say 0.5, right? That's the value. That's the angle. So what if you knew the value, but you didn't know the angle? So how do you enter that in the calculator? Inverse. So you put inverse sine of 0.5, and it'll give you the angle. Try it if you have a calculator. Okay? So here's sine. That's inverse sine. Sorry. Let me move it over. Here's sine. That's inverse sine. Right? I'm looking for the angle. I'm looking for x to value. I have the angle. See how the angle and the value swap places? Because I'm going backwards. And then cosine, etc. Right? So just that little -1 means inverse. So again, trust me on this. Once you start using it, it does become easy. All right. So we use the inverse to find the missing angle. We didn't use the inverse so far. I showed you what the inverse was, but we didn't use it yet. We use it to find the missing angle. So look at this. By the way, we don't call, some books do. I've seen some books call the angle x, but we don't use x and y and z for angles. We use Greek letters. Okay? It's tradition. So this is the Greek letter theta. We reserve that for angles. So this is missing. This angle is missing. I don't know what it is. I need to solve this problem. But look, they give me two sides. Which two sides? Well, from the angle, it's opposite and adjacent. Opposite, adjacent, OA, OA, TOA, tangent. Right? So tangent is what I choose. Tangent is going to help me with this problem. So let me set it up. Tangent theta is equal to 26/11. So I got the two sides. I'm not looking for a side. I'm trying to get back to the angle. Well then, you need to use inverse tangent. Right? Inverse tangent 26/11. You're done. Put that in the calculator and it'll tell you how many degrees theta is. It'll tell you what the angle theta is. In this case, it's 67. Right? So actually, you can skip this step. Since we're looking for the angle, you just got to remember to do inverse of the two sides, put them in the correct order, right? Opposite of adjacent, and hit inverse tangent, and you're done. So now, since we know how to find missing sides and missing angles, why we can solve for all the parts. I can give you one triangle and say find all the missing parts. Look at this one. What do we have here? We have a right triangle. Side A, side B, side C. Angle A, angle B, angle C. Okay? What am I given? Well, I'm given one side and I'm missing two sides. I'm given one angle and I'm missing another angle. Oh, this is 90, right? That's always going to be 90. There's always going to be a 90. We don't have to find that angle. So we have to find 1, 2, 3 missing parts, an angle and two sides. Okay? So you can go in any order you want. You can find B or C first. Right? So what did I do? I went for A. Oh, I found angle A first because it's the easiest to do, right? You know that triangles have 180. So 180 minus 90 minus 35, that'll be your angle A, right? I did that first because it's the easiest. Now, what did I do after that? So I found angle A, it's 55. I got to find the two sides now. B. So notice that B is opposite, and I have adjacent, right? You can't use the hypotenuse because you don't know what it is yet. So opposite, and I have adjacent. So OA, OA, TOA, so I need tangent. Tangent of the angle is B over A or B over 10. I know A is 10. So B over 10, B over 10. Cross multiply, etc. We did this before. And you get B is 7. Okay, now what? Now I need C. Well, for C, that's hypotenuse. Adjacent hypotenuse. AH, ka. So that's cosine, right? Cosine of 35 is 10 over C. Right? Cross multiply, etc. Divide both sides by cosine 35, and you get C equal 12.2. Right? So what I did here was find all the missing parts in one triangle. Right? What do I do here? Okay, here. Oh, here. You can't see it yet, huh? Here, I give you all three sides. Interesting, huh? I give you all three sides. So what's missing? The two angles. So here, you definitely have to do, you can't use the 180 rule, right? You definitely have to do inverse trig. So which do you want to find first? It doesn't matter, right? Say you want to find, what did I want to find first? It's okay. I guess I was supposed to take that off. 13.6 was missing, and then I used a squared. That's, if you have two sides, you can use the Pythagorean theorem, right? If you have two sides, you can use the Pythagorean theorem, 8 squared, 11 squared, c squared, or x squared in this case, right? And really quick, find out what x is. It's 13.6. Okay. Now that I know that's 13.6, now I can get to the angles. So I went for the y angle first. Well, which two should I use? Good news, any two you want, and you're going to get the same answer. So if we're going to find y first, you could use opposite over adjacent, opposite over hypotenuse, or adjacent over hypotenuse. Just pick one. It'll get you the same answer, trust me. I picked tangent. So tangent of the unknown angle is opposite over adjacent, 8 over 11. So how do I get the angle? Inverse, baby, right? Inverse tangent of 8 over 11, that's your angle. Hit the calculator, and there it is, 36. Now that you know this is 36, now you could use trig, but why bother? You can use the 180 rule, 90 and 36, and what makes 180? I do it backwards. 180 minus the two angles you know leaves you with the unknown angle. There you go. Good. Here are two try problems. Here are two try problems for you to try, and we'll complete them. I should cover the answers. To try at home, and then we'll look at the answers when I see you in class. Well, it's less than 18 minutes. All right, see you in class. Good night.